India is fast-tracking its ethanol blending to 20% by 2025, cutting oil imports, supporting farmers and boosting energy security. But is this about domestic policy or geopolitics? And what does it mean for trade and global sugar markets? We break this down with market intelligence analyst Marcelo Bonifacio. Thank you for joining us, Marcelo.
Thank you. Let's talk about India.
So India recently announced it will accelerate its ethanol blending targets. First of all, Marcelo, could you come back on what India is aiming for?
Sure. So the first thing that India is aiming is reducing the its petroleum imports. So India is one of the biggest importers of petroleum and its derivatives around the world. So the first thing is reducing its dependency on external and foreign policies and external supply for petroleum. So it has a lot of consequences for domestic inflation and domestic GDP. So India first started to aim this reducing petroleum imports, and the second one is simulating its own agriculture and its own expanding area, especially for sugarcane and some grains that it's gaining share on this ethanol production, especially on the corn market. So it's the two main goals for India is this reducing its dependency on external countries and external supply of petroleum and simulating its own agriculture and the third one so it's the reducing the carbon emissions on the fuel side as India aims to get the net zero emissions by 2070. So that I think these are the three main goals for India, and they are really getting into it.
And how much of this move is driven by domestic energy goals versus a strategic response to shifting geopolitical and trade pressures?
Oh, I believe that the geopolitics and the trade pressures are really important for India, especially that Indian government always try to protect and to expand its own production inside Indian country, as India is already the most populous country in the world. Maybe it will be the most they will have the annual growth of DGP in the status and the focus of the markets of the economies around the world. And then India has a lot of room to expand its own production and its own agriculture and its own industrial side, as ethanol is a really interesting sector of agriculture, as it have this subsides both the agriculture and a lot of industrial, a lot of gaining of the product. So this geopolitic is really on the verge of assimilating on Indian economics and getting this flow of the economy coming from the industry to the agriculture. And for the domestic side, India really have has a lot of room to expand the area in some commodities, as I mentioned. Sugarcane and corn are the most important products that produces ethanol. And I believe that the geopolitical issues uh, uh, are really important for India too, especially on today's global economy, as countries are really trying to put some efforts on its own economies, as we are seeing, and because of the all the political issues and political uh, geopolitical entraves that we are seeing for today's economy.
And do you think this ethanol blending acceleration might influence future trade negotiations or tariff adjustments?
I really believe that that will be an interesting point that we'll see in the future, because India is one, as I said, one of the biggest economies today, and will continue to grow really rapid and accelerate rates. And then this biofuels market will especially be one of the main important sectors of future economies, as uh, the countries will start to compete with themselves on the supply, and we know that it's not possible to produce ethanol in all the countries, and it's really geopolitical interest for some countries to incentivize biofuel demand on these countries that are not able to produce. So some people in India already are talking about exporting ethanol for these countries that don't produce ethanol. And I can mention like Vietnam is growing its demand for ethanol, and we are already seeing the United States uh, getting some efforts to export ethanol to them. We are seeing Japan expanding its ethanol blending, some African countries. So India having this market and this growing market, it's already big. It's already a big market, but it's a growing one. India having this market in the future will for sure have an impact on geopolitical decisions, and may get India more room to negotiate and more room to partnership with another countries, especially on the commodity markets.
And what does it mean for sugar production itself? Could we see an impact on sugar prices if India diverts crops to ethanol instead of export?
For sure, this is a really important factor that we are seeing for the last years, actually, when India had crop breaks, crop decreases on last years. We saw uh, change on the scope of the ethanol program. We believed on the past that sugarcane would be the most important source for ethanol production on the short term, but we are seeing on the actual crop that the corn, for example, is gaining a lot of room. It's the main commodity today for ethanol. It may not be this way in the future, because we are seeing some pressures on corn production. We are seeing some difficulties on getting corn for the distilleries on India. The distilleries are buying a lot of corn from the domestic production, and some animal feed industries are needing to import corn, and that's not import. That's not a necessity for India. India doesn't want to import any products, even if it's petroleum, or more petroleum, or sugar, or corn. So we are seeing impacts on these two markets. And for sugar in the long term, it will be more important, because India has two factors that we'll see in the future. That's growing sugar demand, as India already has a growing population and growing GDP that increases sugar demand per capita. So in the long term, India will have more sugar demand, and they plan to expand and to accelerate, as we mentioned, the ethanol mandate. So sugar will have this demand growing from the sugar domestic market itself and for ethanol. So the long term, we believe that the exports from India will be at the minimum. Maybe India will not have a lot of room to export, even even with big crops, but only they will only export if the crops like uh, exaggerate, as I can say, on the yields. But it's not a it's not probable, as we are seeing a lot of climate problems, and overall, of course, the ethanol program in India will have impact on sugar, and the sugar exports around the world will depend on Brazil even more on the next 5 and 10 years.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your analysis, Marcelo.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
For more videos like this, please do like and subscribe.